Alright, time to finish this by, conquering whatever remains.
Conquer your fears.
But in this case, the war chiefs. So let's see what the first one we have to deal with.
We have conquered all parts of Mordor, but there is one part we haven't conquered. This random toilet somewhere, because the guy just won't leave.
I will say...
This is not Asterix, I told you.
I will say, based off of what you said earlier, I could see this as being something that was originally supposed to be a segment in the main game, because it doesn't feel like they're adding on a super chunk of story.
Like I said, we're just experimenting. In this case, the major change is the experimentation with a new type of moveset, in this case of Celebrimbors, and some different, type of missions in regards to what you do in recruiting the Uruks or having to kill them,
I do.
It's relatively old school in mentality, similar to, for example, expansions of games like Doom would have worked back in the day.
I do like how what we're seeing is, I guess, a light version of Sauron, no pun intended. Wherein again, this guy insists that, oh, it's so much better if I purge them, and that'll supposedly set them on the right path with light, and then I'll make them my army, because I am the one that is right. I'm nothing like Sauron, who just wants to enslave people. Now watch as I enslave these people mentally. Then again, like you mentioned, Second Age elves.
Again, you will see eventually what this leads up to for the sequel, but again, for the time being, sorry, go on.
It is an interesting contrast, though, with how Celebrimbor is definitely a lot more wizened and cynical as a ghost. Probably because he realizes, oh crap, I was kind of doing the same thing Sauron was, and that got me killed for my ineptitude.
I mean, to be fair, he still did push it for Talion to apply, the branded mechanic anyway.
Well, of course, he wants that vengeance, after all.
So again, I don't really think, that much has changed. It's more of a case of, he's just letting things happen. But again, you will see eventually where those lead for the next game.
My take is that Celebrimbor is more seasoned and hardened and wizened a bit. But at his core, he still is that haughty elf from before and does still want to achieve goals of his own. Just on a smarter wavelength.
Remember that. But again, for the time being, these missions is asking you to be fast and think fast about it. You're supposed to, brand a bunch of Uruk and make sure that they start killing each other, as in with the non-branded Uruk, in 4 minutes, and you have to, need to have a higher body count for this. So it's not super easy.
And since they're not fools, you can't exactly mass mind wipe them.
Well, you can try with, like I said, the square plus X move in this particular DLC works slightly different, but can count as a mass brand 2 enemies that have sufficiently low health. So it's not always a guarantee. But there you go. You might be tempted to use the power of a ring to make this, and you can use that to make this super easy. But then you wouldn't have that much, left over for when the war chiefs arrive. And again, it's better suggested if you just, reserve it for that, because another thing that the superpower, mode for the ring gives to you is actually bypassing all of the immunity of the resistances that a captain of war chief has.
Interesting.
So again, it's super convenient to just, in order to just steam pile, an Uruk that is giving you a lot of trouble. And again, it really reinforces the idea of the fact that this is a ring of power that makes you really, really on top of the food chain. Almost there. There we go.
Marcock. What the hell are you guys chanting first? Fucking hell, list.
So it's like, hey dude, thanks for separating the wheat from the chaff. We're gonna kill you for that.
Sure.
I can't tell if that's him trying to be sarcastic or if an orc really does just think like that.
Maybe both. It can happen. This guy has 3 bodyguards, I think.
He came prepared. Or so
Fortunately,
he
all
thought.
of them do. And like I said, a lot of these tend to have their bodyguards only showing up when they themselves show up, just to give you that extra, advantage, disadvantage towards you. Again, the ring still makes as you can see, still makes meat out of them anyway.
Only Frodo had thought to use the ring.
Well,
for
remember, by the
boost.
time of, first of all, remember, Celebrimbor crafted this ring on his own, so it's logical that aside from having Sauron's influence, he will still respond a bit more to him, compared to anyone who wields it.
Break every weak little bone in your body.
Sure. Second, by the time of the events of Lord of the Rings, a lot of time has passed, and Sauron's presence is stronger than ever, meaning that anyone who wields the ring is gonna have a bad time regardless. Like I said, the movie version of The Hobbit gave people a wrong idea in general, because he's not supposed to. People are not supposed to have that much trouble using the ring like he does in the movies. I get the idea of why they did it, in order to have more, convenience in, going from point A to point B in the case of the prequel trilogy to the original one, but it's not really what happens. There we go. Again, you can also tell that if you play the sequel, you can also this is a sort of a prototype of the mechanics for the fortresses, which we'll see in the next game. Sure.
I can feel your
Again, it's funny how this seems like big build-up, but again, we know how this ends with Sauron just going, boop, got your ring.
You know nothing of true power, Sauron. The light will always prevail. All who resist
Will it though?
will be burnt by it.
Yeah,
It'll take a
Alright,
sweet time.
yeah, true.
Well, unless you live in the Shire, then yeah.
In that case, Livesy will just be an asshole, and racist against anything who's foreign.
And you occasionally loot your neighbor's
Well.
house.
Yes.
Well, except for Gandalf.
Well, Gandalf is still a bit of an exception, and as you remember from the intro of Lord of the Rings, some people like the Sackville Baggins are still very suspicious about him. Remember, the Rings of Power, if I recall correctly, did manage to showcase it, but the entire reason why the Hobbit community is actually friendly towards Gandalf is because they saved their asses during a very cold winter where the wolves started harassing them.
I mean, then he was called a disturber of the peace. Like, what peace? They argue with each other every day.
Again, that's just what the Hobbits are, and again, exposure to British series like Midsummer Murders taught me that it feels to me like Tolkien wanted to have at least a minimum of a satire of the British countryside.
Huh.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Midsummer Murders is I believe, still ongoing drama series made around here by ITV.
For a moment, I thought you were going to say it was a dramedy.
About a village, a fictional village called Midsummer. And there's a lot of murders going on there.
It contains a lot of fucked up people, trust me.
And the series has been going since 1997.
It's
You
very
think after 26 years, people would have cottoned on by now?
Yeah, it's kind of like Murder She Wrote, where a lot of not all of them, but all of the episodes center around the fictional town where Jessica lives of Cabot Cove, but with a shitload of murders. But you have to understand, Lives, one reason why it's particularly popular is because those murder mystery series, or police, drama series about, catching criminals and everything tend to be relatively popular. Although I can tell you that for some reason, since probably marketability kind of thing, Lives, the series in my country is named after its protagonist. The inspector, but at least in the first couple of seasons, was called Barnaby, and essentially was called Inspector Barnaby, which came into a problem when they switched the main protagonist of the series in.
Oops.
Well,
And this is why I advocate that if you have to translate a title, try to stay as close to the original as possible, because shit like this happens.
yeah, that's why that happens a lot in anime. Although for some reason, at least around here in the UK, that new heavily delusional anime kept its Japanese name around here in the UK, except italicized rather than in kanji.
For here, it's more of a case with Hollywood movies because, like I said, while we do have translations, all over the place, on a general line they try to be generally accurate. But when it comes instead to translating, titles or descriptions and anything for usually American movies, sometimes someone decides to piss out of a toilet and come up with weird shit. Get this, Joba. The first Pirates of the Caribbean here in my country completely excises that title, instead translated into The Curse of the First Moon. Which doesn't really say anything. Like, sure, there is a curse, and it's attached to the moon of a night, but it's not really attached to the seasons of the moon. It's not attached to, being the first case of a curse. So why the fuck do you call it that? And oops, when the sequels arrived, they actually had to translate the term Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, that must have been fun to actually explain. You see, this actually is a sequel to Curse of the First Moon.
It was more of a case of you should have done this from the beginning, Nimrod.
Oh god, it's like when Star Trek Enterprise was just called Enterprise for its first two series.
Oh my god, that was a thing.
It's a thing of marketability, but again, like
Yeah.
you said, so go on.
I mean, I sort of get the point. Enterprise was a prequel series, and so in that respect, I can sort of get it. But I guess they got cold feet later on and just added Star Trek back to the title around its third series.
Did the Picard series had the suffix, Star Trek, in the...
Yes.
Okay, then.
Or in fact, they've never tried the whole "let's get rid of Star Trek from the title" thing since midway through Enterprise.
It makes sense, brand recognition. So the Picard series, let me guess, essentially a sequel to Next Generation and Deep Space Nine?
More so Next Generation, although that there are a couple of characters from Voyager that pop up.
Huh.
I get the idea. It's more of a case of finally getting conclusion to a lot of things that some of the series left up hanging.
Yeah, and a third the final season was solid.
That's good. I heard it was a bit of a mixed bag, but it got better.
If a bit reliant on fan service.
Again, from what I hear, I guess that was sort of their last resort. Again, I didn't hear that the show was an absolute train wreck, but I had heard that it was kind of very much a seesaw of quality. Like, sure, sometimes it got good, other times it could get real bad. I haven't seen it for myself, so I've yet to judge, but I do know that the reaction was very mixed. Though, like Drib said, it does sound like the final season managed to win back the crowd overall.
Well, the most recent series, as of this recording ongoing, is Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which is interesting because it's gone back to being a more serialized show like the older series, albeit not entirely ignoring what happens episode to episode.
So one that's a lot more like, kind of like a, this is the adventure of the day formula.
It's more like TOS.
Timeline or classic?
Classic timeline. It's set before TOS, and it's got the characters like Captain Pike and all that.
Oh, so it's a prequel series.
Yeah. It's trying to be more like the original series, but with a more modern, filmy aesthetic.
Okay.
I guess. I'll admit, I mean, maybe it's just me, but sometimes I do wonder, man, it's kind of weird when you're doing a very relatively new prequel to a relatively old series. Not saying it can't work, but it really does make it feel like, hey, if you want to watch these chronologically, get ready for a massive effects downgrade when
There's
you
also
go.
the fact that, remember, Paramount needs to have the series for its flagship franchises, you know.
Yeah, which
Paramount.
is why I got rid of one of them.
Paramount's been acting weird with how they handle streaming stuff. Like, whenever they deem something a failure, it's not like, okay, they just leave it and move on to something else. No, they absolutely wipe it from existence on the streaming service.
Well,
Like,
I heard that the series that stars are in episode 14 is surprisingly good, apparently.
that cowboy
Prodigy.
show.
Yeah. It's an original series created specifically for Plus.
Was that the Yellowstone show?
I guess, I don't know the name.
Has it got Stallone in it?
No, I don't know.
Oh, wait,
I only
it's
saw
night-
basically Go on.
It's 1923.
Okay then. Alright, since I'm almost done, let me explain. Again, for this mission I just need to infiltrate this set of barracks and rescue some of my followers who got captured and apparently were not executed yet, so lucky me. And having these should actually manage to spawn the warship.
Okay, so this 1923 show is a spin-off of Yellowstone, essentially. Apparently a prequel of sorts.
Okay then.
But yeah, I've heard good things about that. Oh, Rug!
Rook.
I know, yeah, but his name is like Rug.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure he is. I would hope if he stopped chanting that he was so cool. I want to figure that out for myself, thanks.
This guy looks like he's going
The
for...
close-up.
Yeah, this guy looks like he's going for a Mouth of Sauron cosplay.
Although he has a bit of a Skyrim helmet.
Huh. You know, I'm surprised we haven't gotten a Lord of the Rings and Skyrim crossover.
I'm pretty sure there are mods about that. Skyrim has way too many mods at this point to count.
In typical Bethesda fashion, it has mods that go to the point of practically making whole new games.
Well,
Can we have a Sonic
for
Front?
that people, since it did happen ever since at least the time of Morrowind, people really did not have a problem with it until it started to be pointed out recently.
Can we have a Sonic Frontiers mod that replaces Sonic with Gandalf or something?
It's possible. I mean, we've had quite a few Sonic Frontiers mods. Like, do not underestimate the Sonic modding community.
You maggot! I've been looking forward to this. Keep your disgusting hand away from me, elf king! I will not
Oh,
submit.
will you?
That was
Mandy,
easy.
though.
It's Elvish, sort of our people lives.
So what was that you said about not submitting?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can say. I will not submit as he goes in a crazy trance-like state.
Keep that phrase in mind, Waves. It will be important much later on.
Step you take brings you closer to your doom. You speak from fear. Doom slips from your fingers so easily. There is nothing I cannot take from you.
Not even your couch.
Virginity.
Well, this is a Warner Bros. Property. Maybe, you know, Darkseid is just sitting on it already.
Maybe. It wouldn't be too out of the realm, and it wouldn't be the other, and it wouldn't be the only world Darkseid has crossed over to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Lord of the Rings is featured in that Space Jam 2.
I'm not entirely sure because that was one of the points where the you know rights to the property were a bit waning. So I don't really know much about that.
I will force the light into these Uruks.
Ew.
Forsake their war chief, and in turn.
Yeah, it sounds a bit out of context. It can sound a bit rapey. again, it's kind of an equivalent. It's your mind rape, I guess. So you also it, suppose. There you go. Sorry, continue, Jonah.
I suppose one thing they would argue is that Urks have kind of always been bastards. Like,
Well, again, like I said, the game walks on a tightrope on that front, and not necessarily for the worst, but it's just on a sort of a balance in trying to showcase. But yes, just like in the movies, the orcs are brutal, in their actions and everything. But it still showcases the fact that characters can be just as brutal towards them in retaliation.
Without
and maybe
a
it's
doubt.
not always presented as as a good thing. You still need to defend yourself from evil, but you need to watch out about the whole EU fights monsters.
I do think it would have been interesting if ever in the lore we saw Orcs, were actually nice.
It happened with Ratbag, and you have to remember, because this is important for you to remember, since it was the first half of the game, that was the orc that was not the one orc that was not brainwashed into, cooperate with Talion. Sure, he was still absolutely strict and everything, but overall, at the end of the day, he still helped out Talion instead of backstabbing him, actual count or something.
Maybe he could have changed the norm if he had been allowed to live.
Alas.
But yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, despite his foreboding name, and yeah, Ratbag kinda did give off the inkling of being a Starscream-esque character, he was surprisingly a legit good guy to Talion.
Sure, again, it was taking advantage of situations more than anything, but you can still, again, it still happened the fact that, he did not, after becoming war chief, he was just good friends and all. He did not really want any intention to backstab, Talion.
Again,
maybe it would have happened if the hammer didn't show up, but it's just up to speculation.
it does lead me back to, again, one issue I have with the game being that I feel like I get that we can't mess with the canon of Lord of the Rings too much, but surely it wouldn't have hurt to have, had a lot more of these characters be recurring of sorts. Like, again, a lot of them are kind of one-offs, or, hey, here they are, then they're gone, essentially.
Again, I get the idea they're treating these the same way they approach some superhero games like the Batman Arkham games approach their characters. The major striking difference being that in that case, those are already recognizable characters, from the source material, in this case comics, which means that even if you didn't know completely about them, they still have a basis to ground through. But in this case, a lot of them are complete new material that you had to, establish.
And there's a lot of potential with it that sadly the game does not realize fully. Again, not to say that they never act on it. I mean, I feel like Torvin is definitely well handled, and part of me wonders if Torvin was the most popular one and they realized that, hence why they gave him a DLC campaign or whatnot. But again, like, I feel like it was a missed opportunity for us to not build up like a party of lovable rogues, from Ratbag to the Warrior Princess and Torvin, and that guy from the other.
It says a lot that the guy that we helped towards the beginning of the game about the slaves situation, not only never shows up again with his fiance, but you don't even get a skin to play as him.
That was baffling. Like, legit, it felt like they were building up something with him. Nope, he's gone.
Face us in the open. Face your end.
Sure.
Whatever you say, my dude.
Cack. Again, these names are always so charming.
I wonder, did they like consult the estate on some of these names?
Well, you have to remember, well, not necessarily. Again, some of them are just there to take the this out of things. But you have to remember, every time a work of Tolkien is adapted, what the thing that he did wrote, that he specifically wrote, are complete, intelligible, complete, properly readable alphabets for both the Elvish and the Dark language of Mordor.
So that remains consistent.
Again, it's more of a case of using a code. Alright, sure.
I'm not the one called Cack.
Well, you'll still die anyway.
Hey! Once I'm done flaying you, I'll fly your
That beats old Nasdaq, the Sauron already said that.
Kill me if you must, but I will never serve filth like you. Sauron is
I like how
Lord,
that
and your
one
followers
captain
will
shows up
suffer.
after we've beaten the war chief, like, a bit late to the party, dude.
There we go.
You sure about not serving me?
I mean, defiance till the end, that's commendable. Mistaken nonetheless.
I guess that one captain decided, oh, crap, now he's serving him. I guess I better fall in line, too.
No, it instead flees away. Captains that were bodyguards, from a branded warship will automatically flee away.
You will become what you seek to destroy.
He's gonna become you?
Lead only to darkness. The light of Eregion will shine anew in the land of shadow.
Well, he wasn't wrong about that first part.
Alright, so the game, in order to speed things up a bit, has one last mission for the warship when the last two remaining will try to show up at the same time to try to, dogpile on you.
Oh boy.
But in order to balance things out, there are also the warship that you branded as prisoners, and you can just save them, and they will actually help you in battle.
These warships, they rose to greatness by serving the Dark Lord, but they betrayed us. Now they will die on their knees like the true cowards they are.
Technically, it was not of their volition.
By executing my war chiefs,
That doesn't matter. That is no excuse.
I will humiliate all.
Sounds
who
like
defy me.
something out of Captain Scarlet.
Yeah, like when there's like that.
He was
literally
dead at the
that episode.
time. That's no excuse.
Yeah, it was literally that bit where Captain Scarlet saved the Colonel, but he had to bind and gag him and put him in a cupboard. And Colonel White was like, being dead's no excuse. And then he sentenced him to death, but was like, yeah, but you're indestructible anyway, so there's no point.
Loopholes.
Well, okay. Not entirely indestructible. High voltage electricity can perma kill him.
So live wire from Superman would be this guy's worst enemy.
Or Cole McGrath from Infamous.
Or static shock.
Okay, actually, you know what, Joe? If Warner Brothers and ITV are willing, I would love to see a DC Captain Scarlet crossover.
Yeah, I could see him crossing over with Superman as
More
indestructible
surprised,
heroes.
Okay, no, you didn't tell me that there was a revival in the 2000s of some kind, but...
Is it a CGI
that was
one?
Yeah, CGI, yeah. Imagine CGI in the mid-2000s on a British kids' TV show budget.
Well,
that sure will give people new nightmares, I guess.
so was it actually creepier than the puppet show?
Well, in terms of tone, I think so. I think that's why 10 years later, when they did the Thunderbirds revival, they had a mix of CG character models, but with live-action environments.
Oh, like Dinosaur. Neat.
Yeah, it was basically a hybrid of the two.
All right,
And they even got back, one of the older voice actors to reprise his role as Parker, even though he was like well into his 80s.
Go on to you.
That's cool. Again, in order to spice things up a bit before the war chief shows up, you have to defeat us, hold on a small army for like 2 minutes or something. But again, the fact that you have the other 3 war chiefs fighting alongside you, plus potential captains, other captains, makes things still balanced out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the reason that they decided to have the square plus X move, brand orcs that have been, sufficiently, damaged enough, is probably to simplify things a lot in order to also rebalance a bit, considering you are technically a bit handicapped, in this. Or again, trying to experiment with the formula to see, different balances and see what can stick out. Something like that will happen also in the DLCs of the sequel, so I'd like to see that too. The voice that the executioner at the start of the mission did remind me. It's such a shame that despite the voice cast that they had, they could not get Jim Cummings to be one of the voice templates for one of yours. I probably would have loved that.
Yeah, I could see him pulling off
especially
a
after
voice.
I played the Splatterhouse Gritty reboot, where they have him as the terror mask, and it's so stupid and fun.
Oh god, he swore up a storm in that one.
What voice would you think would fit? Which one of his voices?
Again, the one that he did for that game, which is basically demonic Tigger. I guess that's the best way to describe it. So
Dominate the war chief.
Oh my.
See, me and Teo have recently gone through quite a bit of this direct-to-video sequel, so we've gone, which also kind of counts as a marathon of Jim Cummings, because he's in practically all of them. So.
And there's the other one.
The massive. Oh, cause he's fat.
You stole from the Dark Lord! Your confusion on Uruks! You're a monster!
Whoa. We have become the very thing we swore to destroy. An orc is calling us the monster.
You will be called out also like this similarly also in the next game, but more in a more philosophical kind of way again.
Ah, interesting.
Again, it will still require, context. I think I did manage to trigger one specific occasion where it's mentioned, but only this time. No, I'm not leaving the mission. I'm just trying to fight this guy here. Please.
I hate when games do that. Like, yes, have you fight close to the boundaries, which if you go too much over, will
I
have
get the
you
reason
lose.
why it's
God,
done.
Genshin Impact's one of the worst with that.
I get the reason. Yeah, you're gonna lose social credits if you step away from the mission. Again, I get the idea why it's done. In case you actually feel like you want to actually genuinely leave the mission, you have an easy way out. So.
Made a choice of death, or will you corrupt me too?
I'm gonna go with door number 2.
You sound so terrified.
Alright, time to bust up the other one. Ow.
And I gotta dominate 2 people.
Mm-hmm. And since I activated the power of the ring in the meantime, I can, easily go to town on this guy.
Stop saying do fuck. Do you think this is?
An orgy?
Oh,
God,
they're
yeah.
all the bodies, I guess.
Orgy of the Rakes.
Stay away, demon! Do not touch me with your wicked magic!
You shouldn't have
No.
attacked me in the first place.
And there we go. We have all the war chiefs that we need to try to challenge Sauron.
Gee, I wonder how this is going to turn out. Yeah, the true Lord of the Rings.
Again, it's funny knowing how this ultimately ends. Nothing will prepare you for what comes next. Ring, come to me. Boop. Oh, that was easy. Like, granted, maybe it is to show just how futile it was for Celebrimbor, but it's kind of funny. All that
Any more of a
build-up-
case of let's give you a fight under these conditions, you know.
It's like you spent all that money on the DLC only to basically have a fight where you know who's gonna win.
Alright, I will give this credit. At the very least, we have an actual boss fight against Sauron in this.
Wow, we just had to get DLC to happen. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is nice.
It's one of, you can tell it's one of a case of addressing the complaints that the people have rather, you know,
Credits.
doing it on purpose.
Definitely, yeah.
Also, yeah, so we did the whole roll credits. That's the title of the game.
The Great Sauron, held back by these.
My god.
Not the beat.
You see,
Oh god, okay. That has made me slightly that has slightly made me less able to take Sauron seriously. If he falls for the falling beehive trick.
gameplay mechanics.
You can only damage Sauron via the execution, so the power of ring is vital for this mission.
That said, you are absolutely tearing into him using the ring. God damn.
I got prepared myself for this. But that was just phase 1.
Oh.
This is where things go to the shitter.
You can defeat me so easily. What's yours has always been mine.
Oh, sure, whatever you mean by that. Wow. Oh shit.
Oh, snap.
Army?
And now we are surrounded. God
By all
damn.
my forces at the same time. Have
Wow.
Wait, hang on a minute. So you go all this way to brand the war chiefs, only for them to be unbranded like 5 minutes later. What was
fun.
the
Well, they're still
fucking
useful
point?
for the first phase.
Well, okay, to be fair, the point was to build up an army. The problem is, Celebrimbor underestimated Sauron in that regard.
And remember, this is
I've never been a
unprecedented.
big fan of. I've never been a big fan of missions where your objective gets invalidated like 5 minutes later.
I would say it technically doesn't invalidate it because now this is what gives us the next phase of the fight,
Not
essentially.
just that, like I said, it's still, again, maybe because I only show it, you know, going on in an instant, but the first phase normally would be a case where you also require the help of war chiefs. Again, since I just came prepared, you know, for the fight, I just made it look like easier than it was.
So I wouldn't say it's pointless in that regard.
-1.
Because
Anyway,
you know
just
how...
to mention, because I didn't, because I found in the meantime, at least according to Steam, under normal circumstances, is without, you know, without sales, each of the DLC pieces, story pieces cost $9.99 each, and the season pass to get both of them, plus, you know, a bunch of other stuff like, you know, say the costume, a couple of different costumes, and the some of the extra fights you can do in the main campaign, cost $15 essentially. Oh, okay, no, I tell a lie. This is called like the Game of the Year edition upgrade that cost $9.99. But like I said, these, much like a lot of the older Warner Bros. Games, these things get on sale extremely quickly, you know. And even the base edition of the game nowadays costs still not that much. So again, if you look forward to play this game and everything, literally the next, like, making this public, it will be probably the summer, so the Steam Summer Sale probably would have been present already at this point. But even in case, you know, -2. Even in case, you could just wait for a sale when you get it for literally everything for like $2 or $3 total, you know. phase. Now, once again, excuse me, we're trying to have a moment here. Oh, fuck me.
Yeah, Sauron can do that. Reanimate the dead.
And now, ignore the warships. You have to concentrate on Sauron. What I'm just doing is to just replenish the energy of a ring just in case.
You know what I think's a bit of a missed opportunity? That you didn't actually get an opportunity to play as Sauron with essentially the controls of Celebrimbor, especially since they make it a note that Celebrimbor is pretty much the light version of Sauron.
Well, maybe that's the idea in that case, then.
I suppose, yeah.
Even in general, the fight, if you may have a keen eye, you will notice that in most of the movements, this fight against Thorin is still, you know, recycling a lot of things from the fight against the Hammer that you have in the main campaign. But hey, at least it's an actual boss fight.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take these over another QT fast.
Again, I'm sorry, like...
Alright, time to finish this.
Bound together, Celebrimbor. You are banished from death.
Ow.
And that's what happened.
I guess I'll give him credit. At least going off of this boss fight, it does at least make it seem somewhat more like Celebrimbor was actually putting up a fighting chance instead of just, oh, he immediately lost the ring. Although
just get curb stomped.
You do get also an extra video snippet that again tells you just how much much of a dick Celebrimbor is even in depth.
I will say this though, it's kind of awkward that they shot it in the village when the original cutscene shows the battle happening out on an open field. Yeah.
Your spirit is cursed, Celebrimbor.
If you forgot that this is Galadriel talking to us.
Always helpful with the exposition she is.
Until the One Ring is unmade.
And we go back to what happened to the beginning of the game from Celebrimbor's perspective. Oh sure, we need to get to see this again. Well, again, there's something a bit funny with the fact that the Black Hand was trying to summon Celebrimbor by killing all of his people and didn't count on the fact that Celebrimbor just chose someone else and not him.
Fate do be like that.
Finally, all will fear me and rejoice.
Piece of shit.
Oh snap. So this was all part of Celebrimbor's plan, actually.
Well, as the fight against the tower told us, yeah, he chose deliberately us. It wasn't an accident because he didn't want to enter. But it's still worth noting what happened at the very end. After everything, Celebrimbor genuinely asked Talion if he would just let go because they had no alternative of defeating Sauron, and it was Talion the one who suggested to construct a new ring. Keep this in mind for what has happened now and what is gonna happen in the next game.
Let me guess. It turns out Celebrimbor is influencing Talion mentally.
Well, again, that might be speculation, but in general, we will need to see how the events unfold. But for the time being, I will not ask you to be super descriptive. But if you want to have a brief final thoughts about these two pieces of DLCs, Whips.
Okay, it was a bit better than the previous story in that I actually did somewhat get invested a little into what was happening, even though the conclusion was pretty foregone.
Mm-hmm.
And the gameplay has a slight edge to it. But again, I mean, the gameplay was the best part of the game, so yeah.
All right. Well, I might as well ask you: are you interested to see where things are gonna go in the sequel?
Well, I mean, I can practically guess where they're going. They try and fight Sauron again,
true.
but
okay,
he
let me rephrase. Are you interested to see how we will properly unfold? Like, as in getting the idea of what actually happens in getting from point A to point B?
Yeah, I'll be interested. I'm interested in it enough.
Fair enough. Pedro.
Seems like about on par with the base game, honestly. I don't think I have much to add that I haven't said before. Seems like it's fine.
Alright then. Jova.
Yeah, no, these DLC campaigns feel fine. I feel like it might have been nifty if we actually played as Sauron for the second one, since, again, it's kind of a foregone closure that Celebrimbor's going to lose. It was nice seeing some things from his perspective, although it kind of just mainly go to show that, yeah, he's kind of always been an asshole, even as the supposed good guy. But, yeah, no, I mean, they're fine. They're well enough expansions to the game, and I guess that they do enough to justify their price points. So, yeah. That's all well and good.
I'll conclude quickly. Don't worry, even I can just let the credits roll in case. Yeah, these were enjoyable for what they wanted to do, but I have to admit, those are not things that I would have got at, when they came out at full price. Getting the season pass on sale was actually the smartest choice for me, which is what I would suggest for any in the audience to do in case it might be interesting to play the game for themselves. Again, these days the PC version should be just fine enough, so please get that. If your PC is powerful enough to handle it. And again, the gameplay variations are interesting. Like I said, some of the stuff will actually stick for the sequel. Some stuff instead will not. And it's nice for example, for the Lord of the Hunter to have more of Thorvin. Since, as Jova said, it was actually one of the highlights of the vanilla campaign. The Right Lord is a bit pointless, admittedly, because as the others also mentioned, we know where we're gonna get. It's one of the same deals that I do have with Crisis Core. The idea that at the end of the day we still have an idea we get there, and it all depends on what is your enjoyment in the journey into getting from point A to point B. So it's up to you on that front. But it still, again, provides an interesting challenge. Like I said, I get reminded of the old school shooter stuff, which ironically, it kind of works out because, this is the studio that made stuff like Blood in the past, and FAER. So, these are made by people who loved that genre and probably applied that still the kind of mentality. I did some research in the meantime, discovered that they still did another Lord of the Rings thing before these ones. So maybe it was a case where they started, a bit before into doing that. Then again, they also did Gotham City Impostors, and that one sucked.
Oof.
So I don't know what happened. But who knows? Again, still interested for the Wonder Woman video game eventually. But anyway, enjoy the rest of the credits, audience, and we will see you eventually next time, because factions will collide. Alliances will be forged, new enemies will show up, and nothing will be the same as Talion and Celebrimbor wage war across Mordor towards the Dark Lord. See you next time for Middle-earth: Shadow of War.
See you then.
See ya.